Good morning. So imagine you're out in the ocean, you throw your net into the sea, and you start kind of dragging along, and your net fills up, and you pull it into the boat, and you start looking at all the stuff you got, and you take out the tires and the corpses and the boots and stuff, and throw those back overboard, and then you start picking through the fish, and you see the weird-looking fish with the scary teeth and everything. And you think, well, that's certainly not a good fish, and you get ready to throw it overboard, but then the first mate comes over and he says, wait, no, don't throw that fish over. That's a good fish. It just looks ugly. Apparently, when the Chilean sea bass was first kind of discovered, and it was this ugly, horrible, toothy, monstery fish, and it had some awful name like the toothy, monstery fish, and so nobody wanted it, until some chefs got a hold of it and realized how, once you get rid of the toothy monsteriness and cook it up, it tastes like a piece of butter, which for me to be talking about fish in such high light, it must actually be good. But anyway, the point is that Jesus is saying, okay, everything that you pull in, you got to wait till the end, right? And we're going to separate it out, and only the Lord knows the good stuff, right? We might look and say, oh, that toothy, monstery, horrible fish, we got to get rid of it. But only the Lord knows what is good, and indeed, He will separate the good from the bad. We live in a very polarized world, don't we? That's kind of putting it lightly. We live in a binary world when it comes to polarization. It seems that there are no kind of like gradations. It's either, I'm on or I'm off. I'm yes or I'm no. 1 or 0. And it really, I don't know, it's really disheartening when we think about it. And people, they're just kind of like, and of course politics makes it all the worse. People just kind of de facto default, like this is the way I was raised and this is what I've always been, and so there's nothing that can change me, and there's nothing that can change you, and that's that, right? And we think about it in terms of religion, and we say, okay, well, I want to be holy, I want to be more like Christ, I want to strive to do the will of God. So to do the will of God, I have to kind of set aside the ways of the world. Yes, we're called to live in the world, but not to be of the world. We're called to be innocent as doves, but as cunning as serpents, yes. We're called to use the gifts that God has given us here on earth to build up His heavenly kingdom here on earth, to assist in that. We don't do it ourselves. We're called to be agents of unity, but at the same time, right, Jesus says a lot about division. Hey, you just came in here. Thank you, Joseph. But in this divided world, how can we be agents of unity? Well, one way, of course, as we all know, works really well, is to go online and to start arguing about our political beliefs. That really helps us to be united. Start talking to, when we see someone with whom we disagree, to start kind of, telling them why they're wrong. That really helps us in unity. But Christ calls us to a radical unity in which we're united to Him. How can we unite with people with whom we so vigorously disagree? Perhaps there is no way, because perhaps the things about which we disagree are so kind of fundamental and essential to life. Perhaps there can be no unity until we're in heaven. But while we're here on earth, and as we're being gathered together in the net of the Lord, as we're being gathered together into his bark, the church, how can we strive to make sure that the good stays? To make sure that the good doesn't jump back out into the ocean. A lot of times we see that, right? Where people say, you know what, it's just, the world is too far gone, the church is too corrupt, there's just no hope. So I'm going to jump back out, back into the chaos, back into the mess, back into the ocean. I say, no, don't go. Right? Wait a little bit longer. Wait until the Lord is going to separate the wicked from the righteous. To be agents of unity, to be agents of holiness, we do have to recognize that there's a battle. It's not an earthly battle, it's a spiritual battle. It's a battle between good and evil. And of course, we know that good has already triumphed, right? The crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Christ has been that good triumphing over evil. And so we have to ask ourselves, how will I choose to live my life? St. Alphonsus Liguori, whose patron, whose feast we celebrate today, is a great patron of moral theology. He did a lot of teaching on moral theology and why that's important. Modern man doesn't think it's important. Modern man thinks, well, who are you to tell me what to do and how to do it, and mind your own business. But St. Alphonsus Liguori recognized the importance of the moral life, of living a life of holiness, of encouraging others to live lives of holiness, of helping others to strive to be holy. And so we do have to focus in our lives on, how am I living? Am I living right? Am I encouraging those around me to live right? Well, go back to politics. Am I voting in a way that is helping others to live right? To uphold the dignity of human life. God gathers all of us together. He throws his big drag net out right in here into St. Clair and just gathers us all up. And at the end of time, he's going to take the net and drop it. And well, that Father Michael fish, that's certainly no good. Throw him back. Oh, the Father Tim fish, we'll set him up here on this pedestal for people to, worship. And then, just kind of separate out the rest. And so we have to ask ourselves, am I really, truly striving as best as I'm able to live a life of holiness? To recognize that there's something in me that is good, right? God made me as a good fish. Yes, through the fall, we've disfigured ourselves. But through our baptism, we've been restored. Through our efforts to live lives of holiness, we continue to follow God. So let us ask, through the intercession of St. Alphonsus Liguori this day, that we may indeed always strive to do what is right and lead others closer to Christ.